I have a little bit of good news for you when it comes to misinformation online. I can't believe that this exists, but apparently the misinformation defense system, sort of social, cultural, in terms of social media networks, identifying things as misinformation, all of this together appears to kind of be working a little bit. People accessed less misinformation in the 2020 election than the 2016 election, although it is not by any means game over for misinformation. But the study was published just last week in Nature Human Behavior. It found that just 26.2% of Americans were, quote, exposed to untrustworthy websites in 2020, which was down a good bit from the 44.3% in 2016. And if you don't remember, like maybe you weren't paying attention to politics back in the 2016 era, it was really bad at that point. BuzzFeed reported that the top 20 fake news stories on Facebook outperformed the top 20 real news stories in number of link clicks in the final 3 months of the 2016 presidential election campaigns. So this wasn't just muddying the waters. They were generating more attention than the real news updates. And the most popular fake news story in the final 3 months before the election was titled "Pope Francis Shocks World, Endorses Donald Trump for President, Releases Statement." It had around 960,000 engagements, and it of course wasn't real, but it was just game on. You could spread any BS headline, any BS website, and people were eating it up. It raised alarms about the concept of fake news for the first time, and so the right wing obviously loved that it existed, so they co-opted the term fake news to just be applied to journalism in general. And now thankfully we have some progress. I'll give you more details, but Francesca, what do you make of this?
I mean, a lot of Macedonian teens made a lot of money. So there's that, they bought their little Rolexes and iPhones and they crushed it. They were crushing it. Got the ladies. But yeah, this is a good thing. This is progress, and I can't help but thank our Lord Mark Zuckerberg for sort of maybe a little bit, kind of, but not really clamping down on some of the fakest of the fake stories, but still keeping all the the like extremist far right wing stories, because obviously that's the good clickbait. But yeah, I mean it is at that point. The 2016 election was the internet gone wrong election. Yes. It was like, oh, we all sent money to a Nigerian prince stuck in an airport, didn't we? Sorry.
Yeah, except the prince that they sent their money to is the guy who would spread conspiracy theories about the Nigerian citizenship of presidents of the United States.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it all comes full circle, everybody. Anyway, so look, the researchers seem a little bit optimistic. They say efforts to educate people about the risk of misinformation, including content labels and media literacy training, most likely contributed to the decline that they found. Nearly 68 million Americans still visited untrustworthy websites 1.5 billion times in a month though, so still an issue. And according to the researchers, conservatives and older adults were still the most exposed to untrustworthy sites in 2020, as they were in 2016, but they are now coming across them at lower rates. You can look at the 37% older than 65 that visited misinformation this time around, a far higher rate than younger groups, but an improvement from the 56% in 2016. So even them, they're the hardest hit right now, but still a fairly massive drop from before. I think people are. Now, by the way, that does not mean that they're not getting the misinformation. I think that them going to fewer of these fake news websites, they could still be getting the misinformation on social media sites, but maybe that's a little bit less convincing than a website that somebody faked to look like CNN, but it's not CNN, right. But your grandmother's not, she doesn't know that the URL's wrong. So maybe it is still an improvement.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.